welcome back to the channel. So the title of this particular video is going to be So You Want to Hear God Laugh? Tell Him Your Plans. The reason I wanted to say that was, as you can tell by my voice, I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit, but that's okay. I've had a heck of a week. Last week was Fall Nationals. Actually, the week before. Last week was my week that I need to tell you about. And so what ended up happening with me was I got back from Fall Nationals and I kind of started sounding like this by the end of the day and on Monday. And I was teaching classes, and by Tuesday I had almost absolutely no voice at all. None. So I had to have some of the black belts take over classes for me, and they're running classes and I'm helping around the school and doing what I can do to help out a little bit. And one thing leads to another, and by the end of the week I'm feeling pretty crummy. You know, I'm not feeling good at all. And Tanya keeps trying to talk me into going to the doctor, and of course I'm just not having it. I got things to do. I'm way too busy. Got things to get accomplished, and I had a seminar coming up for Kali. I had my good friend and mentor Jason Davis coming into town, and he's going to teach a Kali seminar for me. And so Friday night I picked him up, and we chatted a little bit, and I took him over to the hotel, dropped him off, and picked him up on Saturday morning, and he started teaching the seminar. And it was all right. I mean, I was tired. I was good and tired, but I picked him up and we had some breakfast and we went over and he got started. And I did a lot of video shooting that day. I'm walking around trying to shoot different types of angles and things of him. And by Saturday night, I was pretty tuckered out. I mean, we stayed together for most of the day, but he went back to the hotel, and then the real moral of this story is, so Friday night I only got about 3 hours of sleep. I was pretty daggone tired. And then Saturday night I didn't get zero sleep, none, not 1 ounce of sleep. Now, one of the things you need to know is that I'm on a medication, my ADHD medication. So, you know, sleep for me was for my body to repair itself and not so much for, you know, my mind to work. I didn't need it to be awake, but so I take my medication and I go about my day, and then on Sunday, you know, long day, I hadn't had any sleep now, and I thought, okay, well, I'll go to sleep Sunday night. But what happened was I kind of felt like I had this house sitting on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. It was ridiculous. And every time I doze off, I'd wake up in a panic, and I'd be like, I'd catch my breath, and then once I'd catch my breath, I could lay back down again. And so I kind of felt like I was going crazy, and I didn't understand what was going on, but you know, I dealt with it. And so Sunday morning I got up and I went and did my thing, and I took my medication, my Adderall, and went through the day and took Jason back, and we had dinner. I mean, I suffered through it, but I kept telling my wife, I was like, you know, I feel like I had this balloon in my chest, like I can't breathe. It was awful feeling, along with this cold. So I'm thinking, oh great, I'm starting to get bronchitis, or I'm starting to get pneumonia, you know, something's going on, and I wasn't digging it too much. Well, Monday was even worse. It got so bad on Monday that, you know, Jason and I couldn't train. There was nothing for me to do. And so we sat around and we talked a little bit about the program and what he was teaching over the weekend, and he kind of updated me. Saturday I got to do a lot of video recording. Sunday not so much. I was hurting pretty bad on Sunday. And then by Monday, of course, I'm on day number 2 with no sleep, like no sleep at all at nighttime. And I know that sounds really weird, but as soon as I dozed off, I woke up in that panic again. So I was afraid to go to sleep. Anyway, I took Jason over to the airport on Monday because he had a flight out at 4 o'clock, and I dropped him off over there about 2:30. And after I dropped him off at 2:30, I had to go over to the accountant's office, and I met up with the accountant and got all my information from them. And then I headed back to the house and picked up the boys, did my normal routine, went to the karate school. I didn't have any energy. I couldn't walk from the house to the van without just being completely and utterly exhausted. I couldn't go from one building in the karate school to the other building in the karate school, and it was the same thing. I was exhausted. I couldn't breathe. I felt lightheaded and dizzy, and so I was pretty well convinced that I had pneumonia. Something was going on, and as much as you think you've got plans for your future, and you think you want to tell God what they are, He's got another set of plans for you, I promise you. So Monday night, go to bed, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm exhausted now. I'm 2 nights in a row, no sleep, and I'm gonna drop like a rock. I can't handle this no more. And once again, no sleep. I did not sleep at all Monday night. In fact, it was worse Monday night. And I was sitting there on the couch. I got up about 12:40 in the morning, and I went out on the couch because I was hacking and coughing and sneezing, and I just felt terrible. And by 3:30 in the morning, I was starting to question whether or not I shouldn't just go to the hospital. I was sweating like crazy. I felt like my left hand was cold and tingly, but it wasn't numb like a normal heart attack. But something was just not right, and I felt like I needed to probably go to the hospital. But Tanya was in the other room, and she's sleeping, and I didn't want to wake her up. She's got to go to work in the morning, so we'd planned on getting me a chest x-ray because I kind of felt like I had pneumonia, and I needed to have that looked at. Well, by 6 o'clock in the morning, she's getting up, and she's getting ready to go to work, and she's looking at me, and she's going, you're not doing so well, are you? And she really wanted me to go to the doctor or to the hospital, and I was like, nah, I'll be all right. She goes, well, what do you want me to do? I said, well, I guess we better order that chest x-ray because something's definitely not right. And she goes, if it was me, what would you tell me? And I said, well, I would tell you to go to the doctor. And she goes, no, you wouldn't. You'd tell me to go to the hospital. And I was like, yeah, probably. Well, my provider called. Her name is Michelle. And she called, and the funniest part is, in this whole deal, she wasn't calling me. She was actually calling Tanya. And she accidentally called my phone, which never happens. I'm Tony. She's Tony with an A. But she called, and she was FaceTiming. And Tanya picked up the phone, and she kind of shoved it into my face. And Michelle looked at me, and she goes, wow. She goes, you look like crap. She goes, what do you think you ought to do? I said, well, Tanya says I should probably go ahead and get that chest x-ray. And she goes, what do you think you ought to do? I said, yeah, I better go to the doctor. She goes, Tony, you've been to the doctor. I am the doctor. She goes, I've done everything for you. I can't do any more for you. We've done all the outpatient treatment we can do. There's nothing left. You've got to go to the hospital. And I was like, okay. Well, Tanya decided that she was going to take the boys to school that morning, and that I was going to go straight over to the ER. And so I go over to the ER, and I check in, and I tell them, I said, yeah. They said, well, what are you here for? And I said, well, I can't breathe real well. Now, mind you, I'm going, so they can kind of tell I can't breathe real well. And I think it took me about 1 minute, maybe, to get checked in to the emergency department. I'm gonna shut this thing off. I got this crazy thing going on with I'm gonna try and get this focused in so you guys can actually see me again. Yeah, anyway, so it took me about 1 minute to get checked into the ER, and they didn't mess around, man. They took me back there, and they got me checked in, and I used to work over at the emergency department as a paramedic, and luckily for me, I knew a lot of the people back there, but one of the nurses, Ginger, comes in, and she took over my case and was taking care of me, and they came in and they did an EKG, and I was just kind of like, so does it still say normal sinus rhythm? I just go, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, the results. Doctor has to do that. And I was like, whatever. And then they drew blood and they gave me a breathing treatment, and they decided to order a CT, and they took me over and I had a CT. Well, mind you, I got all these things going on, and I'm just getting ready to start my master's training. I've got like 21 brand new white belts out on the floor for Taekwondo. I'm busy. I ain't got time for all this. I just, give me something so I can take care of this cold that I've got, and this, possible pneumonia that's going on. And that's where I said again, you want to hear God laugh, tell him what your plans are. And I had all these plans going on, and Doc walks in and he looks at me and goes, do you have any history of heart disease? And I said, no, sir, I don't. I said, my father had a heart attack at 58, which is, that's why I'm constantly working on taking care of my heart. I eat right, I exercise daily. I never got into drugs and alcohol, never my thing. I mean, I can have an occasional drink, but nothing, I don't drink to excess ever. Pretty healthy lifestyle. I mean, I spent 22 years in the military, in the Marine Corps. Took care of myself while I was in the Marine Corps. And he looks at me and he goes, I understand that your family has a history. He goes, but do you have any history? And I said, no, I don't have any history. I've always taken really, really good care of myself. And he says, according to the CT, he goes, you have bilateral congestive heart failure. I'm like, what? I said, how in the hell does a 54-year-old get bilateral congestive heart failure? And he just looks at me and goes, that's what the results say. And so you can imagine, to my surprise, all of my life I've been doing the right thing, took the high road, always doing things to make sure that my heart was in good shape. I mean, just the week before, I was in Pittsburgh competing with 6th, 7th, and 8th degrees, in sparring and combat. So how did I go from being, this strong person to what I turned into, like, within days? So you want to hear God laugh? You tell him your plans and tell me how that works out for you. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let you know what's going on. I'm not going to ask you to like this video because there's nothing about it to like. But if you'd like to subscribe and follow us, we'd love to have you do that too. And I'll keep you informed as much as I can, all right? You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again soon.